Paralives has now made one of their Patreon articles public, and this is going over genetics and visual features inheritance in Paralives. So this originally was posted on their Patreon back in August of 2025, but they just made it public today, which is January 8th of 2026, the time of recording. So I'm going to go over this really fast because I am curious how genetics are going to work for paras. So there are going to be different types of inheritable traits. So just like in real life, our physical appearance is influenced by the genes we get from our parents and of a lot of environmental factors. So one of the main challenges in Paralives was trying to create a system that lets the players recognize certain traits that have been passed down throughout their generations of paras somewhat realistically without getting too into complex genetic rules. So they wanted to have something that was believable, that was kind of some fun details, and keeping the system lightweight and consistent across the board. So one of those inheritable traits is facial features, which should come straight from one of the parents. So their goal is to have facial features inheritance be very simple. And so it's going to be something like they have their mom's nose or they have their dad's jawline. So how it's going to work is for each facial feature, like a nose, a chin, or whatever, the child is going to inherit their relevant sliders from one of the parents chosen randomly. So for example, they may inherit the entire set of nose from their mom and the cheeks from their dad. This should keep things coherent and avoid a weird mixture of incompatible sliders, which could create extreme results. So as you can see in the example that they gave here, it looks like the girl got her mom's chin because she has like the more pointy chin and a birthmark, and her mom also has a birthmark. But it looks like she has more of her... Well, to me it looks like she kind of has the mom's nose more than the dad's nose. And she has the mom's hair color. So it's like you can kind of tell where she got it from. Second, which is another inheritable trait, is height. It's partially from the parents, but mostly left up to chance. So there's going to be height sliders in Paralives, and I've been working on this since the beginning of the development. So that's going to add, of course, some uniqueness to the characters and make the world feel more diverse. Their goal is not just for the height to be inherited, but also to give it some variation so the kids of parents who are kind of the same height don't end up being the same height. So we want the players to be able to say things like, this family has giant genes running in it, or this child grew taller than their parents. So that's kind of how they want it to work. So they're splitting it into 3 categories, which is medium, short, or tall, with different ranges depending on their gender. So when choosing a child's height, they randomly select one parent's category and apply it to the child. Then they'll randomize that exact value within the range. So that means your parent might be tall like his mom, even if they're not the same height. So in this situation, we got 4 siblings, and we have 2 parents, 2 siblings, and 1 sibling is taller than both parents and the other sibling. So they did note that in Paramaker, you can make a genetic child from 2 same-sex parents, but during gameplay, a parental couple will always consist of 1 pair that can get pregnant and 1 pair that can get others pregnant. Which makes sense. Number 3, when it comes to eye color, skin color, hair color, and like different textures and freckles, it's going to be your textbook dominant and recessive genes. So instead of getting the traits directly from the parents, they wanted to build a more complex genetic system that reflects the dominant and recessive models that are kind of like real life. These are the only traits that are able to skip a generation. So how it's going to work is they built a simple system of genes and alleles, I'm not sure how to say that, to stimulate how these features would be passed down. Some traits are dominant, which means they only need 1 copy of the gene to appear, like brown eyes, and others are recessive, which means they need 2 matching copies of the gene to show up, like blue eyes. So there's 1 gene for hair texture, and there's 4 possible gene types, so straight, wavy, curly, or coily, with coily being the most dominant and straight being the most recessive. In other words, the more curls you have, the more likely it is to win when mixed. Let's see, a para has 1 curly gene from their mom and 1 wavy gene from their dad. Since curly is more dominant than wavy, the para could have one of the curly hairstyles chosen at random. But the wavy gene is still there and could show up in their child if paired with another recessive gene. So in this example, the mom has coily hair, the dad has straight hair. In the genetic terms, the dad has straight, and since straight hair was never dominant, since the kid has curly hair, that means his mom probably has coily genes, and he has curly straight genes. So 1 curly grandpa or grandma would have been proud. So for the application of the genetic system, it's going to show up in different situations. So in one situation, when creating a para from scratch in the Paramaker, the gene will analyze the current features and deduce the genome data corresponding to the actual look of the character. When creating paras from two parents, whether in live mode or Paramaker mode, the game will generate a child using the inheritance rules explained above. When adding a parent or a sibling in Paramaker, the system will use genetic data to generate the family member so everything fits nicely, and then eventually in the future they're going to have advanced genetics for people who want to control the genetics themselves. But that's probably not going to be in early access. Babies and toddlers won't have full access to sliders, so their features may be generic at first, but it's still being computed and saved, so as they grow up, you'll see their true heritage, which makes sense. And then eventually there will be the option in game to mod the DNA, so as with most of the in-game systems, genetics will be widely moddable. You can add, remove, or modify any trait to support genetic inheritance, so this may be things like creating a new alien species, making unnatural colors, adding new features like devil horns or Shrek ears to make them inheritable too. So that's kind of cool. I like that they're thinking about in the background. We won't see the genetics obviously unless you mod the game or you make a pair from scratch or that, but I'm liking these different areas, and I'm hoping that if it still comes out in early access in May of 2026, that we're able to see this ourselves when we play in early access. But let me know what you think of this post in the comments below.